Awesome. Hey everyone, we are back at the Blockchain Economic Forum. We are now talking to Telly Valerie Onu.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Greatly appreciate it.
Great.
And I actually got to hang out with Mackenzie Slaughter, your partner, your co-founder.
Yes.
Yes, at Beyond Capital Markets. That was a blast.
Yes.
I love talking to her at Blockchain for Social Justice.
Yes.
And I learned so much, and I'm excited to continue learning from you. Yes. So, global infrastructure for financial impact.
Yes. Global financial infrastructure for impact.
So, teach us about what you're up to. We'd love to learn.
Okay. Well, as a few people who I met today kept asking me, so what is an impact project? And that's the key question which we're trying to solve. So we found that there is a huge gap between impact investing, or people understanding what impact investing is, and actual finance. So there's a big capital gap, and a lot of times I have to explain to people that impact is actually spread across different asset classes. But the issue is, a lot of times when people think of impact, they think about just social impact. They think about just philanthropy, aid for trade and, handouts, and just doing something so you feel good. That's just a very small component of it, and that doesn't really generate any returns. However, we see impact very differently from a totally different lens, Impact for me, or us, isn't just social impact. Impact can be transformative, So I live in an emerging market.
Yeah.
So if you were to provide finance.
You live in?
I live in St. Kitts and Nevis. That's in the Eastern Caribbean. So for anyone who's listening, it's in the Eastern Caribbean, West Indies. I'm sure you've heard of Antigua or, Barbados. We're one of the lesser Antilles Islands. It is independent. So it has its own governance structure, has its own prime minister and everything else. And we also have, it depends on tourism and financial services. So it also hosts one of the biggest international financial services center as well.
I would.
So we're small, but we're global.
I want to ask you some questions about St. Kitts. Can I, on the way, ask you a couple questions?
Why
So,
not?
how many people live there?
It's about 55,000 people.
55,000 people live on this island.
Yes.
And this island in the Caribbean is about the size of, how many square miles-ish it is, or square kilometers?
I'm the worst person to ask about square kilometers.
Okay. How long does it take to drive across the island?
About an hour and a half.
Hour and a half to drive across the island. Oh my gosh.
Around the island.
Around the island. So this is a very small, hour and a half. Okay.
It's a twin island because it's St. Kitts and the sister island is Nevis.
St. Kitts and
twin
Nevis.
Islands, yeah. And together, population is about 55,000 thereabout. I'm sure it's increased over time.
Are the waters just light blue and beautiful?
Awesome. Beautiful.
You look at me like you have no idea what you're missing.
It's like a honeymoon, right?
24 hours.
24 hours, yes.
365.
Yeah.
So, how's the quality of life there? Like, how's the food? How do people have a job, like a meaning or a purpose in life? How's like the health care, etc.
Well, interestingly, St. Kitts and Nevis is actually listed as a high-income country. It's one of the very few, if not only, high-income country you have in the Caribbean. It's second to Monaco in terms of the highest number of billionaires living in St. Kitts.
Wow.
That being said, while it's a high-income country, most like other emerging markets, it would have some pockets of areas where you could improve upon, like job creation and so on. We have quite a young population, very young population, and as with most young populations, they're looking for more new opportunities to grow and develop. So when I speak about impact, these are the type of things I see, where you have, just a simple, if you were to provide finance to a company, a smaller company or a startup in a small island like my island, and they were to grow to the size of, I don't know, a Facebook, a Google, or even something even medium. It doesn't have to be that huge. By hiring like maybe 10% of the population, and that would have a trickle-down effect in terms of improving livelihood. So right now, the lifestyle is pretty good. It could be improved because it doesn't trickle down to like the whole population. So you still have those issues. But if you have projects that can provide that access to capital, it can then trickle down to more. And as I said before, you have a very young population that they're into music, they're very, very creative.
Oh, sweet.
But there's a gap.
Sounds like my peeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a gap.
Yeah.
Access to finance.
Yes. And to foster their creative potential to the
Correct.
fullest. So maybe tell us just maybe like one little last bit about what's the language that's spoken?
English.
Primary.
Primarily
What's the secondary?
English.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, I mean, it was one of the former British colonies. It's part of the British Commonwealth. So it's English, and well, locally in the island, people do speak dialect, which is like broken English, but it's English.
Wow, I wanna be okay. And wait, you're hosting something cool there that's upcoming.
Yeah.
Can we know about that? Is that
Sure. So next week, from the 25th to the 30th, we partnered with the Think It's Music Festival. This festival has been going on for nearly 30 years, and it gets bigger and bigger every single year. So this year, we decided to do a little differently. So they normally have their Think It's Festival, and what we decided to do was to bring in that component of blockchain and crypto to it. So because we focused on
festival, that's gonna be
so Music Festival really kicks off on the 27th, right up to the 30th. So from the 25th, we have a whole session. We have 2 days of an impact investing summit, very high level. We have as one of our lead sponsors, our catalyst sponsor is Bitcoin.com, and we have, we're graced with Roger Ver, who was one of the first, if not the first, investor in blockchain and Bitcoin and crypto projects on a whole. So he'll be sharing his insights on how he got into the space and how he supports innovation holistically.
And if our viewers continue supporting us on Patreon, we can afford to maybe go down to St. Kitts and join and interview some brilliant people down there. We would love for you to join us. So hook it up, homies, if you want us to get down there. Thank you. Just a quick plug.
That's a quick plug.
Yeah, because
we're
trying to. We'll have the link in the bio to come and check them out as well.
And it's not just about we're not just going to be talking about blockchain for good. That's just a lot of superficial stuff. We're really talking about how to bridge the gap.
Yes.
So we have the first 2 days focused on impact investing. We'll have potential crypto fund managers. We also offer programs to support and develop crypto fund managers. We'll be announcing the launch of our exchange, which is going to be the first decentralized exchange for impact. So this is really serious. It's going to be big, and we have some really strong partners on it. We're going to be launching shortly after that is our protocol, which is the protocol to support crypto traders. So if you're interested in becoming a crypto fund manager, and you want to also learn how to become a crypto fund manager in the impact space,
yes,
we actually have an entire protocol and infrastructure to provide the tools and so on. I mean, we had a session today talking about how to set up a crypto fund, and we heard it costs like over $100,000 in the US. So we managed to kind of bring down the costs and make it easier for new crypto fund managers to come up. And we really believe in finance. I think the big gap is
about the decreasing costs. And
the big gap is we need to get more people in finance. There are a lot of young people who are looking for opportunities and looking for opportunities in finance.
That's true.
Yeah, and millennials are very, should I say, social conscious.
Yes.
So here is an opportunity where you could bridge the gap with leveraging your passion for social consciousness with something that actually brings high returns, high financial returns, where you can actually track impact.
Yeah.
You know, where you're seeing job creation, you're actually seeing economies grow and thrive, and all of this is tracked very transparently, low cost on the blockchain.
Okay, well, let's unpack this because, okay, first things first, you'll be launching your decentralized exchange for social impact.
Correct.
And then you'll be also starting to help train crypto fund managers in
Correct.
social impact space, which is very exciting. Like you said, more people, especially socially conscious young people, need to get involved in understanding how they can potentially assist with this whole crypto decentralization, social impact revolution.
Correct.
Okay, so in order for us to do all of that, so that's all launching, and then you're tracking it, you said, via the blockchain. So you're tracking how many jobs are made, how well off people are doing after you guys have made an initial social investment. So maybe teach us a bit about this.
So we have partnered with ECCU Foundation out of South Africa.
XO.
So ECCU, that's
Okay.
IXO.
And teach us a bit about them.
Yeah, so ECCU, they're really huge on they're building out their protocol for tracking impact. So they basically are creating a whole taxonomy framework on the blockchain, and this is really key because you can't begin to throw money at something you can't measure.
Yes.
And I think that's the big gap. So when you
Yes.
look at even when you look at traditional, should I say impact companies or development organizations like the multilateral ones, like the World Bank and so on, and they fund projects. One of the big things is how do you monitor the project? How do you evaluate it? And how can you get the results? It needs to be results-based. So the challenge we've always had is the fact that impact is linked and related to many different criteria, many different indicators, right? Yeah, it's linked to many different indicators.
Yes,
and
it is.
Every project is different. So ECCU has a big task, and they're creating a whole taxonomy library to kind of document all of this. So we're partnering with them, and this now has, when you're thinking about, it's not just tracking the impact, but now we can actually move into developing new financial products like social impact bonds, green bonds, because you can track what you can measure effectively, you can fund, basically. So it's going to create unlocking a whole new perspective for finance.
So, okay, so IXO was making it to the taxonomy for social impact measurements.
Correct.
And then they're still doing that, so you've partnered with them.
We're partnering with them, and they will be not just our partner for providing that level of transparency onto the exchange, but then together we'll be launching some smart impact bonds.
Interesting. So what does let's ask a two-part question here. What does the Smart Impact Bond look like? How does it work? And then also a follow-up to that is how give us an example of how the social impact variables are measured over time with the blockchain.
So I think first of all, maybe to break down what an impact bond would look like is really looking at the underlying asset. So let's just take into an example carbon credits. There is a particular market for carbon credits. So let's just say you as a person, you probably have a lot of, let's look at vehicles. So let's say you have a lot of, your vehicle uses up a lot of gas. Not only that, it sends out a lot of emissions, and the emissions are high. We know the emissions damage the environment and cause a lot of the global climate change you're seeing right now. So now if you were to get another type of vehicle, maybe an electric one, you're actually going to be reducing that carbon emission. Now you can actually take that certificate, because you now have something to measure. So it's a verification document on the blockchain to say this is what you've done. first you were wasting maybe 60,000 or whatever the measurement is, but now you're able to replace that by, using an electric vehicle. Now we could take that, create a certificate on the blockchain, and then tokenize it.
Tokenize it.
Tokenize it.
So then I gain tokens based on the amount of social impact that I'm making.
Exactly.
And then
So
how do I spend those tokens, et cetera? How would that look?
on the exchange. So
On
the
the exchange.
exchange really is like any normal exchange where you could trade the tokens, but each of those tokens is linked to an impact asset.
Okay, so then the impact asset you just described was about switching over to vehicle use that is
Yeah,
more
like a
environmentally
carbon credit certificate.
friendly, a
yeah.
carbon credit certificate,
But that's
and I
just
get
one-
tokens.
but one
That's
example.
one of many.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You could maybe even get one for coming in and teaching kids in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So an education
Correct.
certificate.
And that's not just teaching them, but maybe we have an indicator showing that they have learned. So there's a knowledge transfer. Cause
Knowledge transfer.
If it was just about teaching, everyone would do it.
We'll do it.
Right?
You got to do the knowledge transfer part of it.
If we can track the knowledge transfer, and you have a baseline of where they were before
Yes.
and where they were after, and that had changed their behavior, that perhaps could be tokenized on it. So
Yes.
you're literally then purchasing tokens, and by purchasing tokens and trading them, you're actually providing impact.
So, okay, so now we have tokens because we've made social impact. Now we go to the exchange and we take our tokens and then we exchange the tokens for either other tokens, other
assets or
cryptocurrency.
other cryptocurrencies, altcoins, or you cash
Cash it
them
out for
yeah,
fiat if you
for
want.
fiat if you want. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have that whole infrastructure to facilitate.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So is this the there seem to be a lot of projects right now that are working on social impact tokens and things like that. So
Well,
yeah.
not actually.
But not the exchange like you're saying.
Correct.
But
a lot
but
of talking.
the-
There are a lot of
tokens.
projects that we've noticed, even when I was here at BEF, they have some fantastic projects that are really, really focused on impact. Like I saw a robotics project where they actually teach robotics and they bring in the equipment. And I mean, that's huge for STEM education.
Yes.
You're talking about building a whole new
Yes.
generation of engineers.
Yes.
That is very impactful.
Yes.
You also have, on another side, I saw Bugs Lab, and they're doing something very different. They're supporting small, medium entrepreneurs, kind of navigate the whole blockchain dimension, and they help them with penetration testing for cybersecurity because normally they can't
Yeah.
afford to secure themselves. So they're
a good
providing
point.
that and they're leveraging the technology. So all of those projects provide different types of impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are just examples of impact. We have one in our portfolio. They're based in Nigeria called Agroplexy. Mackenzie spoke about it?
Yes.
They're providing finance to farmers.
Yes.
And we all know this is not something unique to Nigeria or East Africa, West Africa, the Caribbean, all over, maybe not in the US, but smaller farmers generally do not have access to finance.
Smaller farmers can also get their whole yields wiped out by weather.
Totally.
There's so many variables that go into the small farms that are really important to actually calculate, especially in the process of trying to maximize their potential.
Correct.
So, okay, so we've listed so many awesome examples. This is, it's making me really think hard about how we can ascribe tokens to social impact and get people incentivized.
Incentivized, yes. And like I said, that's why I don't particularly like the terminology social impact.
Knowledge.
The terminology of social.
Terminology social impact.
Because social impact for us is a small component of impact. I prefer the terminology impact innovation.
Impact innovation.
Yeah.
I like that too.
Because you also have innovations that can create transformative impact.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe not the Facebooks, but Google. Before before there was anything like search, they weren't there, and then they provided a new innovation, and now people literally live on Google to do all their search and stuff. So for information, they're providing impact, and for transparency at their level, but now you have an opportunity of creating more impact. So that's just an example of one company that's doing a small thing in terms of bridging the gap with information asymmetry. Now, when you now take that context to other different sectors, and you add what the decentralized technologies could do with added layers of transparency, it's phenomenal, So
it would be, you're talking about taking something like one of the massive conglomerates like Google or Facebook and adding layers of transparency through decentralization. So teach us about maybe
So
what
this
that
is
would look
this
like.
is this is actually, a lot of times people go to blockchain events and they listen and they hear it, but they don't quite understand what's really happening. But what it is the decentralized ledger technologies or blockchain actually enable you to have multi-sided networks. It's a multi-sided network model. And if you look at like the Ubers, the Airbnbs, and Google, they have what we call double-sided platforms. So all this enables you to do is to create a platform model, but it's a multi-sided platform model, meaning the network effects are even more than just a double-sided network.
And does the double-sided network mean that there is Uber that provides the software, and then the drivers that provide the cars, and then there's the customer and the driver?
Correct. You have much more people in the ecosystem. So right now, if you're looking at Uber, you have the drivers on the one side, and then you have the passengers.
Yes.
But imagine an ecosystem where you can incentivize the drivers, the passengers, and other stakeholders that aren't even part of the ecosystem, and maybe along the whole chain.
Maybe like the city that
city
keeps
itself
complaining
that
about
keeps complaining about them, and everybody gets incentivized. You then have what was supposed to be the whole objective of the internet and the whole building your community of value. You now have a full community of value. But
I love that.
But when
full community of
full
value.
community of value, and
I'm sure St. Kitts can do that easier than the U.S. because you have 55,000 people. It's easier to do a tight-knit social fabric than for 330 million.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to start these the social impact processes in maybe smaller communities in like the cities and towns.
That is true, and you're very correct, because we've been working in the ecosystem, not just locally in St. Kitts, but the Caribbean holistically, and also some parts of Africa, in terms of building the ecosystem from grounds up. It's very critical that you identify the different stakeholders and players. And one of the areas that we have seen, that gap is that whole access to finance being that glue, the fabric. It's broken. We all know the financial, system is absolutely broken. That's why Bitcoin was born. But there's still much more to, just payments. What about providing access for inclusion and so on?
Yes.
So this is the type of infrastructure we're building. That infrastructure, starting from, as you say, one community at a time, you can totally redesign and rebuild a whole ecosystem. So looking at what we're doing, say, starting off with Nevis. Nevis is known as an international financial center, a jurisdiction where they offer financial services. Now we have gone to crypto finance. Why not build a whole new fabric around crypto finance? Let's just face it, the traditional financial sector is over-regulated. And a lot of times, they're dying out. It's not competitive anymore, and they really need new products and services to thrive. This gives them a competitive edge by being able to facilitate even people coming into their jurisdiction to launch their projects, build their companies in a compliant way, because right now in the US everything is helter-skelter, but just because you're going offshore, it doesn't mean you're not going to be compliant. They have regulators in these jurisdictions. It's just that the policies and the frameworks may not necessarily be similar to what you're experiencing in the US. But
Yes.
it's an ecosystem where you could launch. But not just that, not just coming into the ecosystem, leveraging like traditional international offshore. You now have a thriving young workforce, talent, potential population that could also fit into that. So, helping them develop, you do need service providers. And if you have more crypto hedge fund managers coming out of that, it's perfect.
Heck yes.
You know?
And you have an academy that's training
Correct.
crypto fund managers, which is really exciting. You also talked about inclusion being really important, which
Very.
it totally is, inclusion for opportunity, to make sure that all children born into the world have the opportunities
It's the
that they need.
opportunities they
Yes.
need.
In order to maximize their own potential and the potential of their communities. Okay, so a couple quick questions as we come to towards the end. How about we ask you, you've addressed this a little bit throughout, but I'm still curious, maybe what are you most looking forward to with the decentralization technologies?
What I'm most looking forward to is just what you said, access and being able for people to realize their full potential.
I love
So
it.
it
Go
boils
Telly.
down to
Yes.
improving people's livelihoods in a very sustainable manner, in a very transparent manner, at a low cost, while providing the type of liquidity investors need. It's fair. Fair game.
I love it. It's like the right recipe. What just came out of your mouth. So the right recipe that we need for providing opportunity. Okay, how about what do you think we should do about wealth inequality being exacerbated by exponential technology? It seems as though the very, very rich are getting much, much richer, while
Correct.
the poor are getting just slightly richer.
Marginally, yeah.
So what do you think about that, and how does that relate to globalization? How do we balance the "we are one" mentality with geopolitical leadership?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, globally, all our different ecosystems have created, should I say, pockets of access points where people have access to information.
Melking calls it the the internet highway.
Well, the
Information
information highway
Yeah.
in that context. So
Yes.
you have pockets where people have not really, I think at the bottom of it is lack of access to information.
Agreed.
Lack of access to knowledge.
To tools, knowledge.
We have traditional systems, which is designed for the industrial age. It was really for very specific industries. And now we are in a knowledge age where we now have to provide more democratic access to everyone. So it's not just a matter of, okay, you're trained or you go to this particular school to do something. All the should I say, pillars for organizational pillars all lead to an old antiquated framework. So that has led to this disparity that we're seeing right now, where some people had access to education, some people had access to those networks, and they're further along than those who haven't.
Yes.
So while it might be a utopia, just like Marx, it might be a utopia to imagine everyone being on a level playing field, but what we can do is try and do what we can to bridge the divides. And I think we're in a space where digital allows us to do that. But then also, if people don't have access and don't have the knowledge, it can also widen that digital opportunity can become a curse and widen the disparity. So unfortunately, there isn't an easy answer to this, but then I think as a conscious community, we do need to play a role. And I think in everything we do, education is always at the bottom of the pillar where you have to. It's cross-cutting. You have to, in whatever you're doing, educate someone else, because once you raise their level of consciousness and you have them see, a different perspective, that paradigm shift would allow them to now take advantage of new opportunities, you know?
Once the mind is expanded to new dimensions, it never goes back to its old ways.
Exactly.
And a lot of that requires the information highway to be right there
Correct.
for everybody. So I like the idea of like having maybe no ceiling on the amount of wealth people can accrue, because we don't want to put ceilings up there.
No, we
but
don't wanna put
but
ceilings
what we
out
can
there.
say is that now there are people that still live without clean water, clean food, clean shelter. We need to make a minimal threshold for people to have clean water, clean food,
Correct,
clean
correct.
air, clean home, etc.
And I think that's what's been done through
But now the question
the
that
UN, right?
a lot of what the
Yeah.
Sustainable Development Goals are
Yeah.
aiming at. But check this out. One of the things that we can't seem to figure out is how to achieve that minimum threshold, because funneling money downwards, exactly. So we need to think
we
about
need-
how to do it and find that solution.
Well, giving people aid is not going to solve your problem. You know, they say, give a man a fish, you
Fish.
feed him for a day.
Teach
Teach the man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And I think that is what we should take away. We really have to, flip that switch.
Yes.
Giving people aid, it might solve a problem in a very short term, but in the long term, you create a cycle of dependency
Yes.
where people just cannot, help themselves.
So
So I think we all have a responsibility to get up and get. And that's what we're given these gifts for, to get up and get.
So then, what's the resource to give up and get up and get? What's the resource that needs to be funneled, or that needs to be given? What is that resource that needs to be there for the bare minimum in order for them to be able to thrive? It is equal access to opportunity. Yes, that's it. But
Yeah.
what is it about equal access to opportunity? Is it, how do we provide an information highway to every single child around the planet?
Yes, that is one of the frameworks. So democratizing information is key, giving them access. I mean, in some,
Does that mean a computer?
well, not just a computer. Because a computer is my hardware.
Yeah.
It's the content. And giving them access to content. That's the unlocking
yeah,
thing.
yeah, being very careful
We've
about what
learned
they
about
give
giving them the hardware,
Yes.
and nothing happens.
Yes.
I've seen people have hardware, even access to internet, and they're online watching porn and a whole bunch
You're
of stuff,
100% right, yeah.
and nothing really means
Cat
to them.
videos instead of physics
Right,
videos,
right.
yeah, stuff like that.
You need to give them content. So
Yeah.
yeah, all those things are, sure, you could say the infrastructure, but you need to give them content and rich quality content for them to have that transformation happen.
I love it. This is exactly what we need to be talking about. I'm really happy that we're talking about this right
Yeah.
now. Thank you. Okay, so a couple last questions is, do you think that we are alone in the cosmos?
No, I don't think so. That's a tricky question, because I think it's individual to what I believe. So I personally believe we're not alone in the cosmos. I believe we have out there's supernatural beings out there.
Mm-hmm.
I probably even believe there's another universe out there. So yeah, I think. But also, one of the things is I think we're all connected spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So disconnecting that context of spirit is difficult, because we're all really are spiritual
Yes.
beings at the end of the day. And I think it's also critical for our development to tap into our inner spiritual being able to have that even communicate with whatever you believe in is really critical. I'm Christian, so I would always defer to my faith and the belief I have, in God and so on, while others might not necessarily agree with, what I believe in. But then ultimately, I think all religions all have that same consciousness of they believe there's a supernatural being, and we believe we're in a cosmos and we're all connected in some way.
The connection between us is very ethereal. It's divine. It's gorgeous.
Very
It's
ethereal,
amazing.
yes.
Okay, so now this leads us into the next question, which is: do you believe there's a designer to the universe?
Yes, I do.
And then,
Firmly.
and then, what does that is that design? What does a designer look like to you? How did that designer make this?
Well, I believe as a designer, but I do believe I'm also modeled. The designer looks like me. I think we're all designers. My belief is we're all created in the supernatural being, and we all reflection of that. So all of us have the capacity to design and architect. That's why we design. That's why we innovate. So I can't say how we were created, but I do know the same skills are also in every one of us to design and architect our life and our future, our businesses, and everything we do.
All right, last question. What do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
Oh my God, my son. Okay, he wouldn't say beautiful. He's really handsome, but I think being a mother is the most beautiful thing ever, because you're able to see a new life. You're able to take care of this new life. It's a lot of responsibility,
Yes.
and also it makes me appreciate my own mother and my grandmother, and look at my whole ancestry and really, really appreciate life on a
Yes.
whole. So I think
I love that. I love that. Yeah. That's what it's the beauty of molding a new mind into the world, is that you get to appreciate what your mother did for you and how it's having.
everything. And what she's still doing. So
What she still
my
does,
mother
yeah.
is 81. She's going to be 82 in August. My son is 19, so I've actually, seeing him turn into a young man.
Yes.
And the transitions are just awesome. And, went from me being this caretaker, from me actually now starting to step back and allow him to live and
Independence.
make his, it's
It's a trip.
It's a
Your
trip.
mom went through the same thing with
my
you.
mom went through the same, and now I understand.
Understand it
because
better now.
I fight with her all the time. She lives with me, and for as long as I remember, we've had this tension every single day. Like we always fight, and she's my best friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I fight with her every single day.
Yes. I want to make a shout out to the mamas, to the unconditional love that many mothers do pass on to their kids. Much love to my mother, to your mother. And we just passed Father's Day as well, so happy to
And
the
fathers,
fathers
they
as
shape
well.
us too.
Shape us as well.
Shape us
So
too. Different way, but shape
different
us.
way.
Yeah.
Yes. So much love to everybody. Thank you for tuning into this episode. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate everything that we've gotten
And
a
I
chance to
appreciate
learn.
you having me here
It's been so
to
fun.
share.
It's been
Your
so
questions
fun.
are kind of hard. Like, okay, where are you coming from?
You had
That's cool.
great answers to the questions.
well.
You had great answers, and you're working on truly crucial progress for our future. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Let's
you.
let's get there together. Let's set up more of these crypto fund managers across the world that are able to focus on social impact,
We're
on
global.
a global impact innovation.
Yes.
Okay, much love, everybody. If you guys had a good time, make sure to share this content with 2 people. Have them share it with 2 people. Let's get the word out. Subscribe, comment below with your thoughts. We'll have some links in the bio. Also, join us on Patreon. We're trying to scale this content to more people. We're trying to build it up to football stadiums so we can fill whole sports stadiums filled with people. Yes, we're going to get there.
You gotta give me your autograph, yeah?
No, we're not.
Sometimes when people get too big, they forget.
We're nobody. We're nobody. We're a little speck of dust trying to make impact.
For now. But this is growth.
We hope so. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.